Hey guys, it's Robin and welcome to this video. This is my game week 1 team selection. I'm going to show you the transfers that I've had to make in the last week due to injuries and news coming out of possible game week 1 selections. I don't want game week 1 selections to override all my decisions because I'm not looking for a wild card within the first month. I'm hoping to keep my wild card until about game week 8, 9, around there at the earliest. So a lot of my decisions should not be based on game week 1. But obviously, if there's instant injury news and doubts, rather make the good play so you have a good start to the season, but you always have the weekly transfer and the possibility of taking a hit. I don't want to take any hits this season, hopefully, maximum 1 or 2 when I need to, but that's why I'm going to set my team up so that there's at least one really reliable player on the bench in case there's injuries week in, week out, so I do not have to take a hit. But let's head straight into the team and see what I'm going to do. So this is my team from the last game week video. And as you can see, there's quite a few red flags. The news has come out that Kevin De Bruyne is injured. Phil Foden's also injured at City. We've seen the debut of Jack Grealish and the official transfer of Jack Grealish. So there's a lot of news going through. We can see Ollie Watkins is also has an injury. And the news of Danny Ings moving to Aston Villa, which is very surprising and it's big. So those are the key areas of change that I can see my team that I need to change. So I'm not going to go about the goalkeepers too much. Sanchez is basically nailed down. Very high predicted pick. A lot of people have him. Brighton's run into the start of the season is really, really good. At 4.5 million, the value for money is unmatched. The 4 million goalkeeper next to him, Ben Foster, could be the number 1 for Watford. Otherwise, I'm not too much phased. Robert Sanchez is nailed down and there's not too much of a worry there. I've got the double up for Brighton. Dunk's going to stay in my team. He played the last preseason game and they're raring to go. Really good start to the season for Brighton. So the double up in defense is what I'm going for. Really, really good value there. So the transfer of the whole summer for Arsenal, the rumours are true. And Ben White's officially an Arsenal player. And at 4.5 million, the value is extremely well. And he's nailed down staying in my team. The big first transfer is Ben Chilwell. Didn't play in the Super Cup yesterday. Hasn't been featured in the preseason as much. So based on him and looking at his fixture run in, the main reason I wanted him was Crystal Palace's game week 1 fixture. He would have been in my team nonetheless in the big fixtures too, but the focus points of Crystal Palace and Aston Villa as possibilities to earn really, really good points and attacking returns was why he was in my team. Now if he's not going to play game week 1, and then you sit with Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham and City, 4 of those games in the next 5, having a Chelsea defender could be really good because they are really good defensively, but I feel like it's a very big risk, and therefore Ben Chilwell has to come out of my team. Luke Shaw nailed down. There's all the rumours of Alex Telles also leaving United, possibly going on loan back. So Luke Shaw is very nailed down and is a really, really good player. So he's staying in my team without a doubt. I had Omar Bamidele from Norwich because I was just playing around which 4 million or should I move up to a 4.5 million defender. But then the news broke of Andrew Robertson's injury. And that gives a natural position opening for the Liverpool signing from last season. Their backup left back, Tsimikas. Tsimikas straight into the team. £4 million defender for Liverpool. And he's basically nailed down for, I'm saying, the first 3 games. First 3 games, and then you've got the international break. So that Norwich and that Burnley game for 4 million starting in the Liverpool defense is vital. You have to take that punt. I know a lot of people don't want him because they want the likes of Trent and they want the likes of Salah and Jota. But I don't have Trent in my team, so I decided to move the funds elsewhere. So having Tsimikas nailed down as a Liverpool defender is a really good way into their team, especially early on. And at 4 million, if he stops playing, just move him down to the bench as your 4 million option on the bench. So I'm really happy about that. So how are we going to fix the Ben Chilwell issue? I'm not really sold on any defenders as of yet. I want Ben Chilwell down the line. He's going to be my main guy. Also, Cancelo's a really, really good option, but he's got rotation risks with Pep, with Kyle Walker. Yes, early on, maybe the first 2 or 3 games, Cancelo's basically nailed down because of Walker's late return back to preseason from England duty. But I'm not sold on Cancelo. I believe if he plays, he will be at the likes of Trent's numbers. But unfortunately, he's not going to play every week. Zinchenko had a really good end to the season last year. Walker is consistent as ever. So Cancelo is not going to get a nailed down, guaranteed 90 minutes every week. And therefore, there's a risk in there. John Stones is a good option at 5.5. It gives you a bit more value. But again, same thing. He was with England. They finished late. He didn't play in pre-season. At this moment, because I don't want to go up to Trent, who's with 7.5 million, and I feel like the value for 7.5 million is better spread going down the team. The quality of player you get for 6 million in a defender is basically the same as the quality you get for 7.5. Obviously not as good, but that 1.5 split that you get moving into midfield makes a huge difference. It's the difference of having someone like Greenwood move over to Mahrez, or having someone the likes of Jota. If you can find another 0.5, you can move take that 1.5 and you can move close to getting to Son. So moving that value, you get really good value at 6 million for a defender, but the value increase that that 1.5 gives you by not having Trent means that you can have another marquee player in midfield or attack. So if we look at the predicted points for the first 8 weeks on Fantasy Football Hub for defenders under 6 million, it really comes down to Chelsea and City as the best value. Predicted points, Trent will be number 1, but if you drop down that price tag, you want to have one of the big hitters. Chilwell was basically nailed down. As you can see, that game week 1 fixture is a problem for me. So I don't know if I should go for Cancelo, and then if I see Cancelo is not going to play, then swap to Chilwell when Chilwell gets nailed down again. Or I can move to Diaz, who's more guaranteed a position in the team, won't get rotated out, but then obviously doesn't have that high attacking returns as Cancelo. So as a differential, and because Cancelo has looked quite good in preseason games, he's played all of them, and Walker has not played a single minute of preseason as of yet. I believe Cancelo is nailed down in the beginning, and then after about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I don't want to nail down a transfer, but if I see Cancelo becomes a rotation risk, then Chilwell will be back in the team and nailed down for that transfer. So this is quite differential, but Cancelo played not so many minutes and got a really good point return. So if his minutes can pick up, he's going to be one of the best defenders in the league. So let's hope his season starts really well and he impresses in those first 3 game weeks where I believe he's nailed down to such a point where Pep can't drop him. Even if it means Cancelo must play left back and Walker plays right back, that he can't drop Cancelo. That's what the hope is. So let's hope Cancelo has a really good start to the season. It looks tough against Tottenham and Arsenal, but I believe City can keep a clean sheet against anybody. And Cancelo is so attacking, he can always have an attacking return, even if City fail to keep a clean sheet. Moving on to the midfield, I had Billy Gilmore. I swapped it to Brownhill. I don't think it really matters. They're just going to sit on the bench and hopefully never play. That's the hope. If they do, they'll maybe get to 2 points. Brownhill scored a goal or 2 in pre-season, but I don't think it really matters. Pick a 4.5 guy and just stick with it. Doesn't really matter. Not worth a transfer later on. I just like Burnley's. I feel like Burnley has a higher chance of keeping a clean sheet than what Norwich does, so his possibility of having 3 points instead of 2 is a bit higher than Gilmore's. Otherwise, doesn't really make a difference. Moving into the rest of the midfield, De Bruyne was my key difference. And as you can see, I made a mistake here. I had Salah and De Bruyne when by accident chose De Bruyne and Fernandes. So what happens when De Bruyne doesn't play? I've got that spot open. Bring back the big hitter, Salah. Salah was always in. I just made a mistake when I was swapping it out. And Fernandes comes back in. For the early on of the season, Fernandes has a really good run in for the first 4 game weeks. It gets quite tough going further down, but by then De Bruyne will be back and rearing to go after the international break, after game week 3. So this run-in of Liverpool, Tottenham, Man City, with Everton and Leicester before that, is not really where I want Bruno. He doesn't really show up that often in big games unless it's from the penalty spot. So I want him here for these smaller games where he can score his goals, and he looked really good in pre-season now against Everton, winning 4-0. So he's a really good player for the start of the season. Same goes for Mohamed Salah. Really good start to the season, barring the Chelsea game. First 6 game weeks, really, really good. And Salah is the main man from the penalty spot, and he's the main man for all the goals and the focal point for Liverpool. So he's definitely my team. Ismail Sarr, I'm going to stick with him. A lot of people are going for Rafinha, going for Buendia, but I'm going for Ismail Sarr. Someone I really like. I like Watford. I like the style of play, and Sarr is an exciting player. There's a lot of players at that 6 million mark, so I'm not too worried. It's more of a punt, a differential, someone you have to go for, but there's other players like Harrison that I can eventually swap towards, or even Benrahma. So there's a whole array of 6 million players. Let me quickly show you on the right. If you look at 6.5 midfielders, there's a lot of players. Suchik, Bowen, Traore. So there's quite a few players. If you look at midfielders for Aston Villa, Buendia and Bailey. Bailey was really, really good in the Bundesliga, and he's going to be a very exciting player. So at 6.5 million, he's also in that bracket, along with Ismail Sarr. As you can notice, I still have 0.5 in the bank, and I want to keep it that way. I want to keep that 0.5 in the bank because it allows me the flexibility. If I see early on in the season, Lewis Dunk is not performing well, but John Stones is a key asset, or another 5.5 million defender is a key asset, that allows me to move up to that if I don't want to drop Shaw. It allows so much flexibility. I can move from Sarr to 6.5. Yes, it might be better to stick Rafinha in here, but then it doesn't allow me to move from Wilson to Ings at 0.5, or doesn't allow me to move from Watkins to Bamford if he starts really well, or Calvert-Lewin. That 0.5 allows me to wait for the beginning of the season and then make my call who's the guy in form. No one can call who's the in-form guy. Beginning of last season when Bamford hit form, no one could have called it, but you want to have the flexibility where you can early on make the transfers without having to wait so long that the price skyrockets and you're priced out of it. So I have many players in many different price categories so that you can swap around easily within them, and have 0.5 in the bank so that you can easily swap up towards someone if that's the need. And then I had Sancho here because I didn't have Fernandes and I felt like you needed a Man United player. But the swap is De Bruyne was out, Fernandes came back in, so Sancho is out. And as predicted, possibly, I don't know what you're thinking, I've got 10 million in the bank for Son. Really, really good option. But with the late injuries of the likes of Foden, Bernardo Silva rumored to wanting to be leaving. Sterling hasn't played a minute. Mahrez is going to be guaranteed for the beginning of the season. Nailed down. His form at the end of last season was excellent, and he's going to be nailed down for the start of this season. Top class player, nailed down at right wing for Man City, scoring a lot of goals. And I feel like he's going to hit even new heights this season. So Mahrez is definitely nailed down into the team for the start of the season. Yes, it's Pep. There's always rotation risks. For all we know, at game week 1 comes and Mahrez is on the bench and Ferran Torres is playing right wing. I'm guessing Ferran Torres is more of a striker this season, especially while Jesus is not yet fit and came back late for pre-season. Ferran Torres is more likely to start game week 1 as the striker, but after that, rotation again. So Ferran Torres can't be relied on. If Jesus ends up leaving and there is a gap at striker and you see it's mostly going to be filled by rotating false lines of Ferran Torres, De Bruyne, then Torres becomes a really good value option. But rotation risks is always the big problem, even with someone of the likes of Mahrez's class. So, but I'm happy with the 9 million because it allows me to move around to 9.5 Sancho. And the 9 million mark allows me to move to 9.5 Sancho and rotate around a lot easier. Because there's quality players like Havertz also in that mark. Grealish at 8 million. So there's really, really quality players around that price range that can drop down to or lift up towards. So Mahrez has some good players around him, and that price range is crucial to have in midfield. I see many people have the 2 big hitters of Salah and Bruno, and then next up is Jota or Greenwood. So yes, I took the 1.5 million from the defense where I saved. So most people would have Trent instead of Cancelo. I have Cancelo in my team, and I took that 1.5 million and I moved Jota or Greenwood to Mahrez. So it's your risk. Will Cancelo do so much worse than Trent that the noticeable difference in the midfield? I believe Mahrez is more nailed down than the likes of Jota and Greenwood would be. Maybe game week 1, Jota and Greenwood would look good, but over the course of the first 9 game weeks, I believe Cancelo is going to be basically even to Trent on points. Trent will have more at the end of the season, no doubt, because he's nailed down. At the beginning of the season, I believe Cancelo will be basically the same as Trent, and I believe Mahrez will be more then Jota and Greenwood. Maybe it's a little bit of bias talking, and I must make sure that doesn't come involved in it. But if you look at predicted points and you look at the start of the season and someone that's nailed down, Morris is a really good option. So that is my midfield for game week 1. Moving forward, Ollie Watkins. It's quite unfortunate that he's picked up a small little injury. And for him, it's quite unfortunate the signing of Danny Ings. Danny Ings is an out-and-out striker. Ollie Watkins can play striker, can play left wing, can play off the main striker. So the main guy that's going to stay up top is Danny Ings. Big new signing. And with Watkins' as injury rumours, Ings will probably be in from game week 1. They don't have any other strikers. Davies is also injured for that note. So Danny Ings, really, really good start to the season for Aston Villa. Danny Ings, straight in for game week 1. That really good start of Watford, Newcastle and Brentford can't be slept on, and you need to have him in your team. Last season wasn't his best season, but he's got the likes and the possibilities of hitting 20 goals a season and being one of the main players in FPL. And Aston Villa scoring a lot of goals last season, an attacking team, adding the likes of Buendia and Bailey, and now Danny Ings with Watkins. I feel like the attacking output is going to be just as good. Yes, they lost Grealish, and in the previous videos I spoke about how losing Grealish could demoralize them, but they've done really good active business and signed replacements to improve the squad all around. So Danny Ings is straight into my team at 8 million, and as you see, I use that 0.5 extra from the Sancho move to put Danny Ings. And then the rest of the tax going to stay exactly the same. Ivan Toney, the main guy for Brentford. He's already confirmed that tomorrow he's going to play, he's going to start, he is the main guy. And you've got Callum Wilson, also another main guy. The other options are the likes of Calvert-Lewin, looks injured. Bamford, not a great start to the season. You've got Jimenez, who I'm picking for game week 4. That's where I want that rotation. Because as you can see, with Danny Ings, at game week 4, his fixtures turn really badly. But if we quickly look here at Wolves' fixtures, this is Meadow, but if you look at game week 4, that's where they really turn around for Wolves. So that becomes really easy. So it's almost basically pinned in already. Danny Ings or Callum Wilson. Probably Danny Ings, I'll give you 3 weeks and then swap for the forgotten man, Raleigh Jimenez. Scored in pre-season and he's absolute class. Yes, he's been injured for a while, but at 7.5 million, the output he gave those 2 seasons before getting injured is so good, and he's going to be such a valuable asset. So basically, I hope he doesn't do too much in those first 3 games so that his price doesn't increase, because that's what I'm worried about. Don't increase his price, and then for game week 4 onwards, where his form is going to be sky high, Wolves are going to be settled in the new attacking manager style, and he's going to bang goals against Watford, Brentford, Southampton, Newcastle. Oh, it just looks so good. So Raleigh Jimenez is basically nailed down to come into my team for game week 4. I'll make future videos of watch list players and players I'm going to keep an eye on, and every week I'm going to update that. We did one in the previous game week, so you can see an eye on where Jimenez moves. And if we get to game week 4, how sharp does he look, and should he still come into my team? And then Callum Wilson, main guy for Newcastle. The only other striker that I can see possibly coming into my team for around the 8 million mark at this very moment is Antonio. Antonio looked really good, but as always, the injury fears. They're playing Europa League football this season too, and they have no other strikers. So Antonio's going to be into the team every single week. And can he last? I don't believe it. Yeah, Nacho was in a lot of people's teams, but based on the Community Shield where Vardy played alone up top and they weren't playing with the 4-4-2, yes, he came on as a sub with Daka and made a really good impact. But is he going to be a nailed down starter? I don't want to risk 7.5 on someone who's not going to be nailed down. If you look over here, a possibility for Che Adams has been opened up. The Danny Ings leaving could be Adams' this big moment. Could he be the main striker for Southampton? That's a really good possibility. He scored 9 goals, 7 assists, did quite well. And at 7 million, that allows the possibility if Ivan Toney does not do so well, Che Adams has a real possibility of being a good value pick at 7 million, and now he could be the main guy at Southampton since Danny Ings left. So that's an option. It's someone adding straight to the watch list that could be the main guy. Looking at Ivan Toney's fixtures, first 5 game weeks, is where it's make or break. Arsenal game week 1 is not the easiest, and he might not even be in my starting 11 for game week 1. But for game week 2 up until 5, he needs to perform before these fixtures over here. If he doesn't perform by then, the transfer could be made to move Che Adams in. As you can see, they've got a really good run in from game week 8 to 12. So that's a very good possibility for the Southampton man. Let's make these transfers, and we can look at the team for game week 1. There's a possibility that I still do some tinkering and some late news comes in about certain players picking up an injury or not in players in team's mind. But I need to have Tsimikas in my team. For Norwich, starting at left back, nailed down. Luke Shaw, Dunk against Burnley and against Leeds is nailed down. Then it's a decision to make. Will Man City's defense against Tottenham be better than Ivan Toney's attack against Arsenal? So that's something to consider. Star against Aston Villa, and big pick. The 3 marquee players, Morris, Fernandes, Salah, Secure, and Watford and West Ham for Wilson and Ings is also good fixtures. Brownhill will just sit, and White will generally also just sit, but being a very good value pick that if need be, he will play. Throughout the season, after the first few games, Tsimikas is probably going to fall out of the team with the likes of Robster coming back. So this is how my team will generally line up. 3-4-3. Solid players that are nailed down in Sanchez, Dunk, Sean, Cancelo. Is Moisal being my differential pick, along with the 3 star signings of Morris, Fernandes, and Salah. And then 3 strikers up top that are quality in Tony, Wilson, and Danny Ings. There's a lot of flexibility in this team, and I feel like there's a lot of good placeholders where I can move towards. For every single player, I can mention 2 or 3 really good possibilities to swap towards. My main eyeing for the start of the season is possibility of moving Fernandes to De Bruyne and Morris to Sancho, and the other possibility of possibly moving Danny Ings or Callum Wilson to Jimenez when their fixtures turn. Otherwise, I feel quite settled. Tsimikas will play the beginning of the season, and White is also a reliable defender. So in this starting team, I have 2 players on the bench that I'm more than comfortable with playing. I would rather have Ben White in my team at the moment than the likes of Woutman, because I've already got 2 Brighton players, and I would have him rather than Ayling. The reason for that is because I feel Arsenal's defense is much more consistent than the likes of Leeds. Yes, Ayling will probably have a better season this season than last, and his attacking returns are bound to come off. But White in Arsenal's defense at 4.5 is a really solid option in defense. So as you can see here, I've got these value picks. Big clubs get more points. Yes, in the back of your head, you might think Luca Digne is so great. But at the end of the day, if you look at the points that those players get, it's not always as good as what in our mind we imagine. We imagine this attacking left back, getting all those attacking returns. But if Dominic Calvert-Lewin's not in the team, who does he aim towards? And even when Calvert-Lewin was in the team, his points didn't always reflect it. Like I spoke about, even though Digne on paper looks really, really good, if you look at the points last season, the likes of Michael Keane got more points. The likes of John Stones got more points than Shaw and Maguire. So that is the big thing. I want John Stones in my team, and that's possibly the only thing I could still change in my team, because his points per game tally was extremely good. Look at the company that he keeps himself with, and look at the appearances. He only played 22 games last season, and he's in among with all the players that were nailed down all season. But getting back to my point, the likes of Digne and Shaw on paper look so great. But if you go through the season, Michael Keane, who you don't think is going to have such great attacking returns, got more points than those high attacking fullbacks. Don't get into the habit of falling for what you think should be the best thing for a defender. At the end of the day, clean sheets is the main target. Yes, if you have someone with the likes of Cresswell who gets clean sheets and gets 11 assists, that's great. But what's odd is that you have the likes of Digne who got 9 clean sheets with less points than John Stones, who only played 22 games. So go for the big hitters. Go for the likes of John Stones. But that's the risk. I think what I'm going to do while I'm tinkering now, value for money, should John Stones come into this position, because I've got the likes of Tsimikas already playing game week 1, and I do something like this. Cancelo might be better long term, but John Stones will have extremely good value for money, and he's more nailed down with the reports of Laporte possibly leaving. So if you put John Stones in, now I've got 1 million free in total. Put John Stones in. Don't play him against Tottenham, where he's most likely not going to play anyway because he hasn't had a pre-season. This team still looks really, really fresh, and you have John Stones on the bench. So there's 1 or 2 tinkering that I still have to do. And if you follow my Instagram, I'll release on the story tomorrow what my final team is going to be like. Or I'll make a quick little video tomorrow just updating if I'm going to make any changes. But as of right now, this is going to be my team and my thinking behind it. I'm just a normal FPL manager like you, so I might still think and I might still fall for the headline news. But the general team is nailed down. I'm really happy with this midfield going for the start of the season and this attack. As you can see with this team right here, I've got 1 million in spare. What do I do with that 1 million in spare? But you don't want to keep a whole 1 million in spare. Should I increase Lewis Dunk to 5.5 million? Also, should John Stones be Cancelo rather, because it will be easier to then move to Chilwell? Could I possibly move Morris to Son from the get? It's all decisions that I'm going to think about. But having a team like this is basically set. I'm quite settled on this defensive lineup. I feel like I'll keep Lewis Dunk, but he's really good value. Sanchez, Saw, Tsimikas. Fernandes and Salah and Saw are nailed down, and Ings and Wilson are nailed down. It's the big thing. Ivan Toney and Riyad Mahrez and John Stones. Those are my 3 players in my team that could possibly be last minute switches. I've got 1 million in the bank, and there's a lot of ideas floating around. Ivan Toney, up to 7.5 million strikers. There's quite a few options. Could it be Antonio? Got 1 million in the bank. Mahrez to Son, straight increase. I've got that. Or Stones up to 6 million guy and keep the 0.5 so that I've got more flexibility. Or just keep the 1 million so that I can make a big move early on without having to do double transfers. So at the very moment, I'm keeping 1 million in the bank to make the transfer in game week 1 or 2 to the player that looks in really good form. But otherwise, that's my team for game week 1. What do you guys think about it? Who do you think should not be in the team? Who do you think is a must-have in my team? Most people probably say Trent, but as you can see, I've got 1 million in the bank and a really solid team. Ismail Sarr is my big differential punt going for the team. Lots of people have him, but he's also one of the differentials that I haven't seen some of the big other YouTubers having their team. So this is my game week 1 team. Let me know what you think and send me your teams down in the comments. Awesome. See you guys soon.